my hand to God, the most incredible thing, Quinn, and I think if anybody loved their mother as much as I did, they could relate to this. When I came up, when I awoke in the recovery room, the pain, they just drilled 16 holes in my vertebrae and put like 2-inch screws in there. They screw the screws in, the screw breaks the bone. It bleeds, and over time, the bone heals around the screws, and that's your fusion. And when I woke up, I'm grabbing the bed, I'm rattling the bed, I'm screaming, "Where's my mom? Where's my mom?" And when I was out, Quinn, for 12 hours, I was out for the surgery. I remember seeing a bright light. I don't know if it was white or it was yellow. Now, mind you, this is October 5th, 2012. My mom died January 10th, 2009. I saw a bright light, and I saw my mom's face. She was young. She was healthy. She didn't say 2 words to me. She had a strawberry blonde hair like she was young. That's all I remember. The first thing I started asking for was my mom when I came out of surgery.
Eddie Berra, AE2B. Hello, hello, hello from K8QS Quinn on Ham Radio Perspectives, man. I am so glad to have you, to talk with you. And that's what we're going to talk about. It's a phenomenal story. It's a story really that, let's start from the current situation and then move back and then come to it so everybody can find out really, Eddie, what the heck has gone on here with you. It's such an amazing story. So here's a shot again, Eddie, of your current antenna. Tell us what this antenna is, because it's the fact that you could hear me running 5 watts up in Michigan.
Well, I tell you, Quinn, I could hear a gnat fart 1,000 miles away with this antenna. It's Tennedyne. Look, I don't get perks from Tennedyne. I don't get a pat on the back. Okay, I was doing comparisons back in 2014, early 15. About finally, it took me, I don't know how many years. I mean, you don't even want to know what I went through, losing everything and having nowhere to live. People in New York destroyed my life. I had nowhere to live. I was living on the dollar menu and sleeping in my car trailer because people in New York destroyed me. So I never in my life would I think I would have a house again, let alone an antenna like that. So when it finally started coming together, I started doing my research, and I wanted something big. I've always had a dream about having a big antenna, and go big or go home. It doesn't necessarily mean big is better, but it's something I wanted. And so I was doing my research between the Thunderbird, the TH11DX, and this log periodic from Tennedyne, the T11. So down here we don't have ice and snow buildup, but up north they do. But what caught my attention was it was cheaper, it was lighter, and I think, if I'm correct, I'm not sure. On the Thunderbird, the TH11DX, the elements slide in and out, and you clamp it with hose clamps. I don't know. I thought, I know when I had my Mosley up in New York, I had a very, very small beam that I had to either go in or out with the elements to get all of CW and most of voice, or all of voice and no CW. And I got my ticket 30 years. I never cared for CW. It's not my thing. I just love sideband voice. And then I looked at the log periodic. It was 30 pounds lighter. It was cheaper. And the band coverage on this beam is 13 to 55 megahertz, which is unfreaking believable. The boom is 24 feet. It's 11 elements, and my reflector element one is 38. And the front element, I think, is about 7.5 feet.
Wow. And it's up, how high is it? About 60 feet on the tower?
No, I've got 50 feet of row 25. That is at the bottom of a 24-foot mast. At the bottom of that mast, at 5 feet above the tower, is a log periodic, 55 feet.
Okay, good. Now hang on, everybody. Don't tune out here thinking we're just talking about the antenna, because this is an unbelievable story that Eddie's life. You heard a little bit about what he's been through. Okay, here we go. This is your the base here, and you can see your rotor and so on. So this is a phenomenal part of the story, everybody. Now, obviously, this is a major operation to get that all working. And you can see the ground around there. And Eddie, you're down in Georgia, right?
Yeah, you're looking at red Georgia, Clay. You might as well just about try digging through cement.
Yeah, that's why I wanted to mention that. So you can see that. And you see how beautiful this is, straight up and down. Now, look at this, gang. This is how Eddie got into radio to begin with, right?
Imagine, I can't believe it. I spoke to my friend 5 miles away. I was freaking out like I found a pot of gold. I couldn't believe it.
Yeah. Yeah. So when you told me what kind of walkie-talkie you had, I said, I got to find an image of that thing for this video. And there it is, the old Midland 5 watt with that antenna that pulls up. And this was, for you, this was the radio really biting you badly in the rear end. You had to get going on
You know
radio.
what? You know what? That was my go-kart before I went NASCAR. How's that?
There you go. And so this is all looking great so far, and you're getting involved in ham radio. You're a kid, and so on. And then what the heck is with this antenna here?
Yeah, I got it's a titanium. Me and my boy Cheech up in New York, W2FTJ, great guy. Never met him, but we became such good friends. So we've been kidding around about the huge, massive stacked hex beam system out of titanium because it always breaks my chops about all the titanium in my back. So, but yeah, that was a 12-hour surgery. That was I'm fused from T11 to S1, and my hand to God, the most incredible thing, Quinn. And I think if anybody loved their mother as much as I did, they could relate to this. When I came up, when I awoke in the recovery room, the pain, they just drilled 16 holes in my vertebrae and put like 2-inch screws in there. They screw the screws in, the screw breaks the bone. It bleeds, and over time, the bone heals around the screws, and that's your fusion. And when I woke up, I'm grabbing a bed, I'm rattling the bed, I'm screaming, "Where's my mom? Where's my mom?" And when I was out, Quinn, for 12 hours, I was out for the surgery. I remember seeing a bright light. I don't know if it was white or it was yellow. Now, mind you, this is October 5th, 2012. My mom died January 10th, 2009. I saw a bright light, and I saw my mom's face. She was young. She was healthy. She didn't say 2 words to me. She had a strawberry blonde hair like she was young. That's all I remember. The first thing I started asking for was my mom when I came out of surgery. So I wanted to share that because I just thought it was the most incredible thing in the world. Did I die and come to life, or did my mother come down and see me? I don't know. But all I know is that I remember seeing my mom's face.
And let's show one more shot of what I'm calling the tower in your back that got reconstructed.
Well, before you, okay. Well, if you look at the very bottom toward the S1 and the T5 and the T4, you'll see cylindrical cylinders. Okay,
Yeah.
they also opened me from the front, so they cut me vertically. They laid all my organs on my chest, and they drilled 4 huge holes into my vertebrae, and they put these little. I guess everybody knows what a helicoil is. It looks like a helicoil. And they screwed the helicoils in from the front. So not only do I have those Harrington titanium rods and the screws, I got 4 titanium cages through the front as well.
Unbelievable.
And that was another 6 hours, a different surgery on top of the 12 hours with that back surgery.
Is it safe to say that you broke your back?
But no, I didn't break my back. I was a conductor up in New York, a railroad conductor. Loved my job, Quinn. Loved it. And I was walking in the yard to make a yard move, and I tripped over a piece of rebar, and I fell. But I was walking with momentum. I was walking fast, so when I fell, I didn't fall down. I fell, and I kind of lunged in the air, and I fell on my hip, and my back twisted 90 degrees. So I did one of these. So I was twisted 90 degrees. And I wound up having herniations L4, L5, S1, C6. And but I worked for another 3 years until I couldn't work no more. I woke up one day and I realized I couldn't move my feet, and my legs were numb. and I started freaking out. I just, you wake up one day, you're walking, and the next day you got foot drop. You can't move your feet. And it was 4 years it took me to finally find a doctor to go in to do my surgery because of my legal litigation against the railroad. Nobody would operate on me. So for 4 years, I was left to hang dry, and my feet would turn a bluish tint at night. They were numb. I got atrophy, foot drop, neuropathy, nerve damage. Nobody would touch me for 4 years. And then I finally found a great doctor, Dr. John Galeno, up in Westchester Medical, who saw me sitting in so much agony in his office. He said, you got to get the surgery done. The first surgery was L4, L5, S1. That's why I sent you the procedure of it, because they went in there a second time. They had to remove that years later and fuse me halfway up, T11, S1. So literally half my back, if you touch the middle of your back, all the way down to the bottom of your spine, that's what's fused.
Wow. And somewhere along the line through all of this, and by the way, gang, don't tune out yet, because you're still going to hear more of this unbelievable story of Eddie. So somewhere along the line, you talked to somebody, or somehow somebody at the ARRL found out about what you were up to, building this and fantastic antenna system with the disability that you have.
Yeah, and the disability I'll explain. When I came out of that 12-hour surgery, Dr. Galeno told me, he said, Eddie, it's going to be a gamble if you're going to walk. I was in a wheelchair for 6 weeks. 6 weeks. And Quinn, all I did, I know you can't see it, but up on my mantle, I got pictures of my dogs. They were puppies. I have no family. I'm all by myself. All I have is my dogs. My friends are in New York. This surgery was in New York, but anyways, long story short, I would just look at the pictures of my puppies and cry. All I wanted to do was get back to Florida and my dogs. That's all that mattered to me. This was before I had the log period. All I wanted to do is get back to New York and see my dog. That's the only thing I wanted to do. But I was in a wheelchair for 6 weeks. I should have sent you that picture too. I forced myself to get out of bed multiple times a day to get on my walker. And I would go out my doorway, because I was the last doorway in the wing. And if you look right, I've got the whole doorway, the whole hallway. And I says, come hell or high water, before I leave this nursing home, I'm going to walk this hallway. And it took me, I don't know how many weeks, but I would get out of my bed multiple times a day. I would count every tile on that floor. And it wound up being 400 tiles. The tiles were 1 foot by 1 foot. So it was 400 feet long. I would walk and sit down with the walker. And I finally made the round trip. And people can't understand. People don't know what problems are. Everybody complains and bitches and moans about the stupidest little things in life. But when you're on top of the world and your world closes in on you and you're looking at nothing but gloom and doom, it's when you have nothing to look forward to. The only thing I had to look forward to was my dogs. And that's all I wanted to get back to. So it was hell. The pain was excruciating. And I wound up walking the 800-foot round trip from my door, from being stuck in a wheelchair. The doctor says it's a gamble I'll never walk. I got back to, my hand to God, I got back to Florida around Thanksgiving of 2012 from New York. It was in Westchester County in White Plains. And all the pills they gave me a blister pack like this. All the pills, I took no drugs, I took no painkillers, nothing. I dealt with my pain, and I dealt with it the best I can. I says, come hell or high water, I'm getting back to the gym January 1st, 2013. And damn it, Quinn, January 1st, I get in my car. I drove to the gym down at Planet Fitness in Newport Richie. I lived in Hudson at the time, and I joined. and I rehabilitated myself. It was a good shot that I wouldn't be walking had I not had the mind and the strength that I did. So when people say, "Oh, you know, it's a miracle. You don't want 300 pounds and I lost 100 pounds," you know what? You either got your stomach stapled or you wanted a diet. What I did was a miracle. I beat the odds of walking. And if anybody can't respect that, then they just can't respect life. And when I tell you I went through hell and back, please believe me. Okay. And when you look at that picture, try digging through Georgia red clay as a normal person. Okay. Now, if you're familiar with Georgia red clay, it's one step from cement. I ain't like a normal person no more. So this tower project that you see in my picture, that was the first one. That tower project was all by myself. Okay. I took down 9 trees on my knees and sitting on my butt Indian style, taking down the trees, cutting up the wood, picking up trunks almost 100 pounds, throwing them in the dump cart and getting rid of them. When I cleared the whole area out, I then hand dug my holes through Georgia clay. Now, mind you, a normal person like you, Quinn, or anybody will either hold the shovel and they'll jump up and they'll land on top of the shovel with 2 feet, or they'll hold the shovel and they'll use 1 foot to dig it down. I don't have that option. I am sitting on my butt, Indian style, digging through Georgia clay. There's massive hole for my foundation. And then I dug the 3 standoffs for the cement. So everything I did there was by myself with no help. So unless you're a quadriplegic or a paraplegic, or unless you're a senior or somebody that can't physically do it, if you say you can't, you don't want it bad enough, because this was a life dream for me. And damn it, I don't care if I died from heat stroke. I was going to build my dream. Pain or no pain, it didn't matter to me. And
let's just clarify on this, Eddie. Excuse me for interrupting, but
yeah.
You ended up being able to walk. But
I walk with a cane. I walk with a cane. If I don't have my cane, I fall over like a domino. So I can't stand without my cane.
So you worked on this tower to get this thing up and to dig the hole in that Georgia clay and so forth, literally sitting down on the ground.
Yeah, with my legs crossed. Yep. And I dug that hole and the 3 standoffs. Now, mind you, if you were able to zoom on it, you'll see it was a tilt plate. So I built the tower on the ground, the elevator system I attached on the ground. Everything was on the ground. And at the time, the girl that I was seeing, she rented a very small excavator. And I wound up, she rented that after I dug the holes, unfortunately. But I used that, I tethered that to my tower, and I pulled the tower up. I backed the machine up. I pulled the tower up. So I had to keep the machine and the tower in a perfect line. Otherwise, it was going to kink the hinges on the tilt plate. But I did use the little mini excavator to get my tower vertical.
And how long did it take you to dig this out on your own by hand like that?
Clint, that first hole I went overkill. It was 12, 24, 36. I think it was 42 by 42 by 36. That only took me 2 days. Clint, I was a machine. I didn't stop. I did not stop. And then when I got that done, I think I dug 2 holes one day for my standoffs. So all the holes were done, I think, somewhere around 3 or 4 days. And again, mind you, if anybody knows Georgia, that's red Georgia clay, you might as well try almost putting a shovel through cement.
And so just to go back to this other thing, then somewhere along the way, after you got this antenna up, somebody told the ARRL about it, and you got a call from one of their editors about doing a feature on you, right?
Yeah, I got not a call. I believe I got an email. It might have been the girl I was seeing. I don't remember. It was so long ago, but we had made contact, and they were very interested about, because of my physical situation. That's what made it. I'm not Joe Public. I'm a very small percentage. So it was with my injury, that with the ability to do what I did, that they contacted me.
And This article, by the way, is not available on the ARRL website. If you go there and look at past QST, for whatever reason, this article is not downloadable, but Eddie he had a copy and he took a couple of pictures of it and sent it off. What year was the article again? I forget. It's down in the bottom right there.
That was April 2017. I think it was page 79. It was called Sky's the Limit.
Yeah, Sky's the Limit. A fantastic story. And so this is what you end up with, Eddie, after all of this hard work. And of course, the hard work was all the recovery that you went through.
Yes, it was, Quinn. That is actually tower job number 2. That first picture in the red Georgia clay, that's when I was living on Deer Creek Circle. And the second one, this picture right here that you're showing right now, that a very, very, very dear friend of mine, Steve Cooper. This guy, he is a walking dictionary. This man could build an amplifier with his eyes closed. But we became friends, very good friends. He stick built my tower. I dug the hole. I had a guy come in and mix the cement for me. That I had done. And when that cured, Steve stick built my tower for me. He came by with his gin pole. So I owe my gratitude of going vertical this time around to Steve Cooper, KC4THS. But everything was on me. The only help I had with that first tower, the girl I was with at the time, her and her son carried the boom out to the tower for me. And that was it. Now, I don't know about you, but anybody will take 2 or 3 people to take a 24-foot antenna and use 2 or 3 people to attach it to the mast. I did it myself. I put a pulley on the lattice of the tower. I pulled up the antenna with one hand. I pushed it up with the other. I tied it off. Quinn, it was impossible. It was near impossible for me to do. But I did it. I did it. And I'm so proud of my accomplishments because I came from, what was that walkie-talkie? A milliwatt, a friggin' 100 milliwatts. And back then, I had 2 very dear friends, Frankie Fatigate, KD2DBW. He's the one I spoke to on that walkie-talkie. My other dear friend, Frank Ruffino, KB2TJJ. Me and Frankie, we all grew up together, went to the same school, and you know, back in the early 70s, 74, 75, we got into 11 meters. Now, I'm going to tell you, because if anybody can relate, they're going to love this. And both of my friends, Frankies, can back this up. I'll be talking to them. I had a Lafayette Telestat 23, and I had a ground plane on top of my roof. And it was wintertime, and all of a sudden, I noticed my power needle wasn't doing what it should. And I thought it was the greatest thing. I had a little micronta, about those 3 or 4 inch SWR meters, and I saw it was pinning. So I'm on the radio. I says, Frankie, I says, hey, I can't hear you. I'd go outside. I'd make snowballs. I'd throw snowballs at my antenna. My hand to God, these guys could back me up. I would throw snowballs at this antenna, and then my SWRs would come down. And every time my SWRs went up in the snow, I had to do that. And that's what I came from. But I'll tell you right now, what I've learned, the 30 years of having my ticket, the things that I've done, the things that I've learned, I would have never done things had I not had the knowledge I had from ham radio. But if I did not get my sea legs from 11 meters from CB, I wouldn't be where I am today. So you know what? Everybody looks down on 11 meters. Everybody says CB. And you know what? Yeah, there's a lot of morons there, but there's also a lot of great guys. And that gave me my sea legs to be where I am today. And it gave me my sea legs. It gave me the dream to have this phenomenal system. You know, now I've got a log periodic at 55 feet. I've got my 17-foot collinear vertical at 90 feet. That's on top of the 24-foot tower that my log periodic is on. That's on a 24-foot mast. So, and I've got a G5 RV up at 70 feet. I did that with my fishing pole. I got that up at 70 feet flat top. So I've got everything covered in 3 bands.
So Eddie, just to come full circle on this now, that day that I happened to hear you, I couldn't hear anything on 10 meters. It was totally dead. And I said, it's strange. But then I went down, I could hear a few of the beacons, you know, on the lower end of the band. So I said, maybe there's somebody down on 11 meters. I checked the conditions and I went down to 11, and some of the frequencies were hopping, but there was one signal I could hear well, and that was you. And you are evangelizing the CBers, telling them how great ham radio is. You were the best evangelist for ham radio on CB that I have ever heard.
Well,
And the
look,
guy you were talking to was really, really interested in this. And I said to myself, there's got to be a story here. Why would this guy be on 11 meters telling him to become hams the way you were? And that's when I tried to get on. I have no antenna for the band. I have no power, but you heard me and we went up to 10 meters. And then you started to tell me the incredible story. So let's finish off with this.
yes,
Your back is working fairly well. You can get around with a cane,
yes.
right? And now your antenna is working like that dream that you always wanted.
Yep, yes, it is. I built my dream. You know, I built the most incredible show car. If you just look up my name on the internet, most gorgeous show car. I was a national champion. And when I set my mind to something, Quinn, nobody or nothing is going to stop me. I don't care if I lost my legs below the knees. I would have dug these damn holes, and I would have done my antenna, come hell or high water. And it's you when a dream becomes a reality. It is the best feeling in the world, Quinn. And although I walk with a cane, and trust me, I'm in a gym and I hit it hard 5 days a week. I train my legs like I hate them. I don't stop life. I train like an animal. I'm on a great tuna fish diet. I have my beautiful dog Diesel. He's my life. I lost Poncho 2 years ago. I'm still devastated over that. I have my dream radio. I have a roof over my head, and the simplicities of life, Cliff, Quinn. The simplicities of life. And if you can't be happy with that, then man, you just stop the world and get off.
What a story! So everybody, put some comments down below and encourage Eddie along and talk with each other about the things that you've been through too. So many hams that I meet don't necessarily want to talk on the air about the difficult life things they've been through. It takes a certain kind of courage, emotional courage from the heart to be able to do that.
Yes, it
And
does.
Eddie does it. And he said to me, I don't want to do this in a way that's going to put the focus on me. It's not all about me. Eddie, it's about human beings, the spirit of being human, moving ahead as a human being, learning from one another, what we can accomplish in spite of the things that come our way in life. And we're all in this same thing, but not in the same ways.
Correct.
And this is life. So thanks, Eddie, so much for recording this. This is Ham Radio Perspectives. My name is Quinn. My call is Kilo 8 Queen Sugar. I've been talking to Eddie, who you can see right here, AE2B. And Eddie is fantastic. Send him an email through QRZ. You can get his email address. Set up a skid. If you're running 5 watts on HF on a band that you don't have an antenna for, he's going to hear you.
I spoke to a guy in Canada with a milliwatt on a wire. I'm telling you, this log periodic Tenadyne. I tip my hat to them. God bless Tenadyne. And I love my Yaesu and my Alpha, and I love ham radio. Thank you for the honor, and I hope that people could respect and give me credit for the chasms that I've crossed to be who and what and where I am today. Thank you for the opportunity.
Hey, you're welcome, man. It's for inspiration. 73, everybody.
73, my friend. Thank you.